first thing that I got involved in was in 2016, Mayor Francis Suarez sponsored a resolution to direct up to $50 million in impact fees, the park impact fees over a period of time to the Underline. That was a big number. Now, it wasn't all immediate, but it was going to be sustainable over time. It was very meaningful. This was actually right after our second child was born. I remember reading a letter of support at that year. I think mine might have been the only one put into the record because Meg had already given like 600 of them out a week before, and people were like, enough for the letter to support. So I brought one more from my newborn son. But from that moment on, I got introduced to the complexities of how all the pieces needed to fit together. City of Miami, City of Coral Gables, Miami-Dade County, and then there's the county itself, and then the state and the feds. So it's always been a big focus is figuring out where all these funding sources are. It always changes. Last year, Meg and Daniel were very involved in bringing another huge piece of the puzzle with the Build Grant. Meg, can you talk about what that was and what that experience was like? Because I know it was fast and furious for you.
Okay, so I'm a full-time volunteer. I'm an English major. I don't have architecture, urban planning. I'm not an attorney. I mean, it's sort of like I have absolutely no business leading this project with my skill set. So that means everything that has to be done well, I bring Daniel in, and then we have a third partner in this, which is our team member at the county, who's the coordinator, Irene Hegedus from the county side. So there's 2 years that involve the Build Grant. About 3 weeks before the grant was due, we were notified that we were one of the selected projects that could apply under the auspices of Miami-Dade County. So we had no outline, no framework. It was a term paper that we should have started in the beginning of the semester, and we waited until 3 days before it was due to write it. 30-page, highly technical, requires one consultant that has to tell you what the value of the project is. It's called a cost-benefit analysis. Had to find the consultant to do that in about 5 days. So I mean, we're sort of like, by the time we were done, I guess I was the keeper of the document. Daniel would sort of write all the brilliant stuff. Irene would get into technical aspects of the cost. Somehow we delivered this on deadline and felt really hopeful about it. And then we didn't get it. So year 2 comes around and we find out that the county has selected us again. And Daniel calls me. He's like, yeah, we're doing this. I said, no, we're not. We are absolutely not doing this. We're not giving up 3 weeks of our lives, 2 weeks of our lives. And he's like, Meg, I'm there with you morning, noon, night, weekends. We're going to do this. I'm like, how do you turn that guy down? How do you turn him down? And he was true to that promise. And this time we submitted it and said, no way, absolutely no way. And we got it. It's a $22.3 million infrastructure grant. The county has received 2 in, say, the past 7 years. One the year before was for bus shelters, then this one, which was for multimodal, which is very challenging to get trails of any shape or form funded through federal transportation grants. So it was a Hail Mary, but Hail Marys win football games. So I remember something very clearly. I'm taking this idea to someone within county government, and they said, that's a great idea. You should go do that. And I think that speaks to, Daniel's comment about the citizen-led grassroots approach. I got a lot of great lessons from my dad, who was also the founder of the Performing Arts Center. And it took him 23 years from inception to completion. So patience was something that he taught me, but also not being patient, like just always pushing harder on yes and always pushing against no. So I'm going to go a little bit back before Francis Suarez, Steve. The first funding that this project got was an existing DOT grant, which was awarded to the Parks Department, I think in 2012. They sort of kept rolling it over. It was $1 million. It's called a TAP grant, Alternative Transportation Grant. And then we went to Mark Sarnoff and sort of talked about this. And he was the one who came up with dedicating park impact fees from future construction and earmarking them for construction. And he was able to get a commitment of $1 million. That was $119 million away from getting this construction fully funded. So
But it was the first million.
But it was the first million. And so it's the first is the hardest, right? And so then you get the county then finding a way to commit road impact fees. And then Mayor Suarez saying, we're going to go big or go home. So we're going to come up with this big number of 50 million. And so Coral Gables says, well, it's also in Coral Gables. We like that model. So then they commit up to 15 million. And then at this point, now the county's saying, we love that we can use these road impact fees for public safety, for alternative transportation, for connectivity. So then they commit more. The Build grant was sort of like the glue that pulled all those parts together, that said, not only are we going to finish your construction funding, but we're also going to give you an impossible deadline to get it all done. You now have to complete the entire 10 miles by 2025, which is 5 years earlier than we had ever anticipated completion. So be careful what you wish for.
That's how much people want this project.
It's more than a joke about, a lawyer, a marketing executive, and an architect walk into a bar. I think it's a great example of interdisciplinary collaboration, like you were leading, Pablo. This is, different people working on different parts and bringing their unique perspectives. And I think for that reason, it probably turned out better than a professional grant writer who, probably has a completely different style. I think if you read the Build grant, you would see some style that was should belong in a federal court appellate brief. And you'll see some things that have a completely different, totally, from the heart, genuine explanation. And that's, I think, part of what made it a great doc. And then the last thing, for me, it was a lesson that I was taught a long time ago, but continues to be true to this day. You have the no in your pocket. You don't need to apply to have that no. So the goal is to seek the yes. You do what you can, you shoot your shot, and you see what happens. And I'm going to always remember that this professional and personal experience that I had with this application.